The chairman's pen stopped 3 inches above the contract. Then he looked at me. "You expect me to believe," Marcus Vale said slowly, "that you are refusing $200 million? The boardroom went silent. Across the polished black table, his eldest son, Adrian, laughed under his breath. "He's bluffing." I didn't look at Adrian. I kept my eyes on the contract between us. $200 million. A controlling stake in Vale Meridian Holdings. A penthouse overlooking the river. And one final condition. I had to sign away every right I had to the Vale family's private trust. 3 years ago, I would have signed before anyone finished explaining. Today, I pushed the contract back. "No." My father's face tightened. "You're embarrassing yourself, Ethan." I finally turned toward him. "My decision isn't about money." "Then what is it about?" Marcus demanded. I met his eyes. "I'm tired of signing things written by people who never intended to protect me." Something shifted in the room. My father's fingers tightened around his silver watch. Adrian's smile disappeared. And beside him, my younger sister Claire slowly lowered her gaze. She knew. She was the only person in that room who understood exactly why I had stopped signing. Because 4 hours earlier, I had discovered that the company I had spent 7 years saving was about to be transferred to Adrian, using my signature. Without my permission. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the fact that everyone had known except me. I stood from the chair. Marcus slammed his palm against the table. "Sit down." I didn't. His voice dropped. "You owe this family everything." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because I had heard those words so many times that they had stopped hurting. "You're right," I said quietly. "I owe this family everything." I looked around the room. My nights. My health. My reputation. My father's debts. Adrian's failures. Claire's mistakes. Every crisis you couldn't solve. My gaze returned to Marcus. "But I don't owe you my future." Nobody spoke. Then Claire whispered, "Ethan." I looked at her. Her eyes were red. "Don't do this." That hurt more than my father's anger. Because Claire had once been the reason I stayed. She had called me 3 years ago from a hospital corridor, crying because Adrian's reckless acquisition had nearly destroyed the family. I had taken responsibility. I had sold my apartment. I had worked 18-hour days. I had rebuilt the company. And every time someone thanked me, Marcus had said the same thing. "We're family." Now I understood what those words had really meant. Family was the chain they wrapped around my neck whenever they needed something. I picked up my coat. "Ethan," Marcus shouted. I stopped at the door. "If you walk out, don't expect to come back." I looked over my shoulder. For the first time in my life, I saw fear behind his anger. Not fear of losing a son. Fear of losing control. "I won't come back," I said. Then I left. The elevator doors closed between us. Only when I reached the underground parking garage did my hands begin to shake. I leaned against my car and breathed slowly. 7 years. 7 years of believing sacrifice would eventually become belonging. My phone vibrated. One message. From Claire. "You don't know the whole truth." I stared at the screen. Another message appeared. "Ask Dad why your mother's shares were never transferred to you." My breathing stopped. My mother had died when I was 16. I'd been told she left nothing except debts. For 17 years, I had believed that. I read the message again. Then Claire sent one final line. "And don't trust Adrian. He knows you're investigating." A cold sensation moved through me. I looked toward the dark garage entrance. Someone was standing there. A man in a gray suit. Watching me. The moment our eyes met, he turned and disappeared behind a concrete pillar. I reached for my phone. The screen lit again. This time, it wasn't Claire. It was an unknown number. "If you want the truth about your mother, come to the Old Meridian warehouse tomorrow at 9 p.m. Below it was a photograph. My mother. Standing beside Marcus Vale. And between them was a little boy. Me. I stared at the photograph until my vision blurred. There was one problem. The photograph had been taken 6 years after my mother supposedly died. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 in the morning, I sat alone in my apartment with the photograph open on my laptop. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. My mother stood beneath a Meridian Holdings sign. She was younger than I remembered. Alive. Beside her stood Marcus. But neither of them was looking at the camera. They were looking at me. The child version of me. I was wearing the red sweater my mother had knitted by hand. I remembered that sweater. I remembered the day she supposedly died. I remembered the funeral. I remembered Marcus telling me that my mother had left behind nothing but debt. Yet the photograph had been taken 6 years later. Impossible. unless everything I remembered had been carefully arranged for me. At 8:40 the next morning, I arrived at Meridian's old warehouse. Rain covered the windows. The building had been abandoned for years, but one office on the second floor still had electricity. A woman was waiting inside. She looked about 50. Short black hair, dark coat, a scar crossing her left eyebrow. "You're Ethan Vale," she said. I didn't answer. She smiled bitterly. "Your mother used to look at people the same way." My heart tightened. "Who are you?" "My name is Nora Shun. I was your mother's attorney." I stared at her. My mother didn't have an attorney. She did. Nora placed a worn leather folder on the desk. She also had 48% of Meridian Holdings. I felt the room tilt. "No. Your mother founded the company with Marcus." "That isn't what I was told." "I know." She opened the folder. Inside were documents bearing my mother's signature. Share certificates, trust agreements, bank transfers, and one document dated 2 months before her supposed death. Nora tapped it. "Your mother placed her shares into a family trust." I scanned the page. Beneficiary, Ethan Vale. My fingers went cold. Why didn't I receive them? "Because Marcus became trustee." I looked up. "Why?" "Because your mother believed he would protect you." Nora's expression changed. She was wrong. I turned another page. There were handwritten notes in my mother's handwriting. "If Ethan ever learns the truth, it means Marcus has failed him." My throat tightened. I hadn't seen her handwriting in 17 years. For several seconds, I couldn't move. Then Nora said something that shattered whatever remained of my certainty. "Your mother wasn't killed by an accident." I looked at her. "What?" The brakes on her car were cut. Rain struck the windows. Hard. Fast. I could barely hear my own breathing. "Who did it?" "We never proved it." "But you know." Nora looked toward the door. "Your mother believed Adrian's father was involved." I shook my head. "Adrian wasn't even born then." I said Adrian's father. "Marcus. My father. The man who had just told me I owed him everything." I closed the folder. "No." Nora didn't argue. She simply slid another envelope toward me. "This is why your mother never wanted you to inherit the company directly." I opened it. Inside was a letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Ethan, if you are reading this, then I have failed to keep you away from Meridian." My vision blurred. "Your father will tell you that power protects a family. It doesn't. Power only reveals what people were willing to become when nobody could stop them." I swallowed hard. "Never fight Marcus for the company. Let him believe he has won. The company is not the inheritance I wanted for you." At the bottom of the page was one final sentence. "Your inheritance is the truth." I lowered the letter. For the first time since leaving the Vale mansion, my anger disappeared. Something colder replaced it. Clarity. My phone rang. "Claire." I answered. "Ethan," she whispered. "Where are you?" "Why?" "Because Adrian knows about the warehouse." I looked toward the window. A black sedan had stopped outside. "He's here." Claire's breathing became uneven. "Listen to me. Don't confront him." "Why?" "Because he isn't trying to take your shares." I stood. "Then what does he want?" Silence. "Claire." Her voice finally came. "He wants you blamed for the company's collapse." The warehouse lights suddenly went out. Nora grabbed my arm. "Don't move." Footsteps echoed below. 1, 2, 3. Then a man's voice rose through the darkness. "Ethan. Adrian. Dad gave you a chance." I looked at Nora. She shook her head. Adrian continued. "You should have signed." A metallic click came from somewhere downstairs. Then came the smell of smoke. Nora's face changed. "They're burning the records." I grabbed the folder. The lights flickered back on. Fire was spreading across the warehouse floor. Adrian's voice came again, calm and almost cheerful. "By morning, everyone will believe you stole company documents and destroyed the evidence." I looked at the burning shelves, then at my mother's letter. For 7 years, I had protected the Vale family from the consequences of their own choices. Not anymore. I slipped the letter inside my coat. Nora pointed toward a narrow emergency exit. "Go. What about you?" She gave me a tired smile. "I've been waiting 17 years for someone to finally stop being afraid of them." Behind us, the flames climbed higher. I ran. But as I reached the exit, my phone vibrated. A message from Marcus. "Come home, Ethan." A second message arrived immediately afterward. "Your sister has disappeared." I stopped dead. Then a third message appeared. "And this time, I can't protect her from Adrian." I stared at the screen. The rain outside had stopped. But somewhere behind me, the Vale family's old world was burning. And for the first time, I realized that walking away from them would not be enough. They had already decided to make me their enemy. Now I had to decide what I was willing to become to survive them. The first thing I did after reading Marcus's message was not call him. I called Claire. Once, twice, 6 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. I stood beneath the awning outside the warehouse, rainwater dripping from my coat, while sirens approached somewhere in the distance. Nora came through the emergency exit behind me. She's not answering? I shook my head. Nora's expression hardened. Then we assumed the worst. I looked at her. You said my mother wanted me away from Meridian. She did. Then why are you helping me? She was silent for a moment. Because I made one mistake 17 years ago. What mistake? I believed your mother was wrong to trust Marcus. Nora looked toward the burning warehouse. I was right about that. I was wrong about something else. What? I thought exposing him would save you. She met my eyes. It didn't. I understood. Because I never knew when to stop protecting you. The sentence stayed with me as I drove home. For years, I had confused protection with sacrifice. If Adrian failed, I fixed it. If Marcus made a bad investment, I covered the losses. If Claire fought with her father, I became the mediator. Whenever someone crossed a line, I moved the line backward. And every time I did, they learned that there would never be consequences. I parked beneath my apartment building at 5:17 a.m. The lobby was empty, except for a man sitting beside the elevators. He stood when I entered. Gray suit, silver tie. The same man I had seen the night before. Mr. Vale. I stopped. Who are you? Daniel Wu, Chief Compliance Officer at Meridian. I stared at him. You followed me. I was sent to find you. By Marcus? No. His answer came too quickly. I didn't trust it. Daniel took a sealed envelope from his briefcase. This was supposed to reach you yesterday. I didn't take it. What is it? Your employment termination. I almost smiled. That's convenient. It gets less convenient. He placed the envelope on the reception desk. Your access to Meridian was terminated at midnight. Why? Fraud. The word landed heavily. What fraud? Daniel looked around before lowering his voice. $43 million disappeared from 3 subsidiary accounts. I stared at him. When? Over the last 6 months. Who authorized the transfers? You did. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because the absurdity was almost impressive. Show me. Daniel hesitated. Then he opened his briefcase. Inside was a tablet. He showed me the transfer records. My digital authorization appeared beside every transaction. I recognized the account numbers. I recognized the subsidiaries. But I had never made those transfers. It's forged. I know. I looked at him. You know? Daniel nodded. Because the authentication system was altered. By whom? I don't know. He closed the tablet. But I know one thing. What? The person who altered it had administrator access. Only 6 people had that level of access. Marcus, Adrian, Daniel, the chief financial officer, the head of cybersecurity, and me. I had been asleep in my apartment during 3 of the transfers. I could prove it, but proof wasn't the problem. Someone had built the fraud around me carefully enough that my innocence would look like an excuse. Why are you telling me this? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because I don't want to be the next person blamed. I looked at him. Blamed for what? He leaned closer. Meridian isn't collapsing because of the missing money. What? It's collapsing because someone has been moving its debt into shell companies. My pulse slowed. That was bigger. Much bigger. If Meridian collapses, Daniel continued, the Vale family loses control. And who gets control? He looked directly at me. Whoever owns the debt. A cold realization formed. Adrian. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. I took the envelope. Thank you. He started toward the door. Daniel. He stopped. If they ask you whether you spoke to me, I'll tell them the truth. No. He turned. Tell them you never found me. His eyes widened slightly. Why? Because I don't want you protecting me. I looked at the termination notice in my hand. I want them to believe I'm alone. Daniel understood. For the first time, I saw something close to respect in his expression. Be careful, Ethan. I will. After he left, I took the elevator upstairs. My apartment had been searched. Not robbed. Searched. The books were still there. The television was untouched. My laptop remained on the desk. But the drawers were open. My mother's photograph was missing. I stood in the center of the room. Someone had been looking for something. I called Nora. They came into my apartment. Did they take anything? My mother's photograph. Silence. Then she said, Ethan, listen carefully. What? That photograph wasn't just a photograph. I frowned. What do you mean? Your mother hid something behind it. I immediately went to the wall where it had been hanging. The frame was gone. The nail remained. I touched the wall. Nothing. Then I noticed a small scratch beneath the nail. A tiny mark shaped like a triangle. My mother used that symbol whenever she wanted me to look somewhere twice. I moved the nearby bookshelf. Behind it was a narrow compartment. Empty, except for a brass key. I picked it up. There was a number engraved on it. 1704. I called Nora again. She answered immediately. I found a key. What number? 1704. Her breathing stopped. What? Nora, don't go anywhere. Why? That key belonged to your mother. I stared at it. What does it open? The private archive beneath Meridian's original headquarters. I looked toward the window. The city was beginning to wake. Traffic moved below. People were going to work, buying coffee, arguing about parking, living ordinary lives. My life no longer felt ordinary. Nora. Yes. Does Marcus know about the archive? I don't know. And Adrian? Another pause. I suspect that's what they're searching for. I closed my hand around the key. Then my phone rang. This time, it was Marcus. I answered. His voice was surprisingly calm. Where are you? At home. Good. What happened to Claire? Silence. Dad. She made a mistake. What mistake? She tried to take something from Adrian. My grip tightened. What? A ledger. I stared at the floor. What ledger? The one your mother kept. My blood ran cold. You said she had no records. I was wrong. For the first time, Marcus sounded tired. Come to the house. No. His voice sharpened. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand enough. Ethan, I won't fix this for you. He went silent. Then he said something I never expected. I'm not asking you to fix it. His voice dropped. I'm asking you to survive it. The line went dead. I looked down at the brass key, then at the empty place where my mother's photograph had been. For years, I had believed my family was asking me to carry their burdens. Now I was beginning to understand. They had been hiding the reason I was carrying them. And whatever was beneath Meridian's old headquarters was important enough to make my father afraid. I didn't go to the Vale Mansion. I went to the bank. Not one of Meridian's banks. A small private branch my mother had used before she died. Nora had given me the name over the phone. Ask for Mr. Lin, she said. Will he know me? He's been waiting for you. That sentence unsettled me. At the bank, an elderly man led me into a private room. He looked at me for several seconds. You have her eyes. I sat down. My mother? He nodded. She told me one day you would come. I placed the brass key on the table. Mr. Lin stared at it. Then he locked the door. Your mother left 3 instructions. What were they? First, I was not to give you anything until you were at least 30. I turned 32 months ago. I know. Second, she said you must come alone. I glanced at the door. I am alone. Third, he hesitated. She said if Marcus came with you, I was to burn everything. My stomach tightened. What did she leave? Mr. Lin stood and opened a safe. He returned with a small metal box. No lock. Just the same triangular symbol I had seen behind my photograph. I touched it. The lid clicked open. Inside was a handwritten journal and a memory card. I picked up the journal first. The first page contained a single sentence. Marcus did not betray me because he hated me. He betrayed me because he loved what I built more than he loved me. I turned the page. There were dates, payments, names, company structures, political connections. Then I saw Adrian's name. He had been involved in shell companies years before I knew anything about them. But there was something worse. My own name appeared repeatedly, not as an owner, as a shield. Every time money was moved illegally, my position inside Meridian had been used to legitimize it. My signature, my authority, my reputation. They had spent 7 years turning me into their perfect scapegoat. I closed the journal. They planned this before I became executive director. Mr. Lin nodded. Your mother knew. Why didn't she stop them? She tried. How? She created a second structure. I looked up. What structure? The Vale Foundation. I frowned. That charity? Yes. I knew the foundation. It funded hospitals and schools. It was one of Meridian's most respected public institutions. Mr. Lin continued. Your mother moved part of her voting rights into the foundation. Why? Because she believed no single person should control Meridian. I stared at him. How much? 26%. My heartbeat quickened. 26%. My mother's original 48% had been split. 22% had gone into my trust. 26% into the foundation. Marcus had never owned the company outright. Neither did Adrian. The family's control depended on something they had hidden from me. What happens if I become trustee of the foundation? Mr. Lin looked at me. You already are. I didn't speak. He slid another document across the table. My mother's appointment letter. Effective on my 30th birthday. I read it twice. Then a third time. The woman who had supposedly died, leaving me nothing, had quietly given me the power to decide the future of the company. Not through wealth. Through voting rights. Through trust. Through choice. Mr. Lin watched my expression. Your mother did not want you to inherit Meridian. I looked up. Then why give me control? Because she wanted you to decide whether it deserved to survive. That was the first time I understood her final letter. My inheritance was not the company. It was the choice. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Claire is alive. My chest tightened. Another message followed. But if you want her back, bring the journal to the old family house tonight. I stared at the screen. Mr. Lin said softly, don't go. I have to. No. I looked at him. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He pointed to the journal. They want that because it can destroy them. And Claire is in danger. Which is why you must not give them what they want. I stood. I spent 7 years protecting my family. I slipped the journal into my coat. I'm not going to abandon Claire because I'm finally angry. Mr. Lin sighed. That is exactly what your mother feared. I stopped. What? She knew your heart would be your weakness. I looked at the journal. Then at the door. She was right. That night, I arrived at the old family house alone. The lights were on. The front door was open. Inside, everything looked exactly as it had when I was 16. The grandfather clock. The marble staircase. My mother's portrait. Except there was one difference. Her portrait had been removed. I walked into the living room. Adrian stood beside the fireplace. He was holding a glass of whiskey. Marcus sat in the chair near the window. And Claire was sitting on the sofa. Her wrists were tied. My body went rigid. Claire. She looked at me. Don't give them anything. Adrian smiled. Always dramatic. I looked at Marcus. You said she made a mistake. She did. Claire shook her head. No. I found the ledger. Adrian's expression changed. Marcus closed his eyes. I understood. The ledger wasn't missing. Claire had it. She looked at me. It's not about the company, Ethan. What is it about? Her eyes filled with tears. Mom. The room went silent. Adrian stepped forward. Give me the journal. I didn't move. He pulled a knife from his coat and placed it against Claire's shoulder. Now. My heart pounded. But I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked at Claire. Then I looked at Adrian. You've made one mistake. His eyes narrowed. What? You think I'm still the man who will sacrifice himself because you threatened someone I love? I slowly reached inside my coat. Adrian tensed. I removed the journal. Then I held it up. You're right about one thing. I dropped it onto the floor. Adrian stared. I stepped backward. I came here to give you what you wanted. His shoulders relaxed. Then I smiled faintly. But I didn't come here without a copy. The color drained from Marcus's face. Adrian's knife lowered. What did you do? I looked at my father. For 7 years, you taught me to prepare for disasters. I turned toward the door. So I finally prepared for yours. Outside, headlights appeared through the windows. Not police. Not reporters. Lawyers. Auditors. And one person I hadn't expected to see. Daniel Wu stepped out of the first car. Behind him stood Nora Shun. I looked back at Adrian. For the first time, he looked afraid. Not because I had attacked him. Because I hadn't. I had simply stopped standing between him and the consequences of his own decisions. And somewhere inside Meridian's old headquarters, the truth my mother had hidden for 17 years was about to become public. Adrian was the first to move. He kicked the journal away from his feet and stepped toward me, but the front door opened before he could reach it. Daniel entered with 2 attorneys behind him. Nora followed. No one spoke. The silence itself seemed to accuse the room. Adrian's face hardened. You. Daniel adjusted his glasses. Good evening. You're fired, Adrian snapped. Daniel gave a small shrug. That was yesterday. One of the attorneys placed a folder on the table. Mr. Vale, we need to discuss Meridian's accounts. Adrian laughed. You think you can walk into my father's house and threaten me? No, the attorney said calmly. We're here because the court-appointed auditors have frozen 12 Meridian accounts. Marcus stood abruptly. What? The attorney opened the folder. Effective 43 minutes ago. Marcus looked at me. You did this. I shook my head. No. Don't lie to me. I didn't freeze your accounts. I glanced at Daniel. He did. Daniel nodded. Under the authority granted to the compliance department after evidence of financial misconduct was discovered. Adrian's face went pale. You can't. We already did. Claire looked at me. Her eyes were full of confusion. Ethan. I moved toward her. Are you hurt? She shook her head. No. I untied the rope around her wrists. The marks were red. My anger rose. But I swallowed it. I wasn't going to give Adrian the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. Claire rubbed her wrists. I'm sorry. For what? I should have told you earlier. You should have. She looked down. I was scared. I know. That was all I said. Because I did know. Fear had ruled this family for years. Marcus feared losing control. Adrian feared losing his inheritance. Claire feared losing everyone. And I had feared being the person who finally walked away. The difference was that my fear no longer controlled me. Nora approached the fireplace. She picked up the journal. This isn't the original. Adrian turned toward her. What? She opened it. The pages were blank. Every single one. Adrian stared at me. You? I nodded. The real journal was never here. His jaw tightened. Where is it? Somewhere you can't reach. Marcus slowly sat back down. His face looked older than it had that morning. You planned this. No. I looked at him. I reacted to what you did. He stared at me. You were always like this. Like what? Cold. The word almost made me smile. I spent 7 years trying to earn your approval. Marcus's eyes shifted. You didn't need to. That is easy to say now. He looked away. Claire whispered, Dad. Marcus didn't answer. I turned toward the attorneys. Show them. One attorney opened a tablet. Bank transfers appeared on the screen. Shell companies. Foreign accounts. Payments routed through construction firms. Fake consulting fees. Then a final file appeared. My digital signature. Adrian leaned forward. There. He pointed. You see? Ethan authorized them. Daniel shook his head. No. He tapped the screen. Look at the timestamps. The room became still. The transfers had been authorized from an administrative terminal located in Adrian's private office. Adrian stared. That doesn't prove anything. Daniel opened another file. Then perhaps this will. Security footage appeared. Adrian entering the office at 2:13 a.m. His assistant followed him. 23 minutes later, they left. The transfers had been authorized at 2:21. Adrian's face changed. That footage is fabricated. Nora looked at him. Then you should have no objection to forensic verification. He said nothing. I watched him carefully. For the first time, I didn't feel satisfaction. Only exhaustion. This wasn't revenge. It was evidence. The truth was doing what I had spent years trying to do. It was protecting itself. Then Claire spoke. There is something else. Everyone turned toward her. She looked at Marcus. You knew about the shell companies. Marcus closed his eyes. Claire. You knew? I knew some of them existed. Some. Her voice cracked. Mom's death was investigated for years. Marcus remained silent. Claire stood. Did you know her brakes were cut? The question struck the room like thunder. I looked at my father. He didn't answer. Dad. His hands trembled. I suspected. My stomach tightened. You suspected? Marcus looked at me. I was told it was an accident. By whom? He didn't speak. Nora stepped forward. Marcus. He looked at her. You owe him the truth. Marcus's eyes closed. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Your mother was going to expose someone. Who? Not Adrian. I felt the room tighten around me. Then who? Marcus looked at the floor. Me. No one moved. I stared at him. He continued. Your mother discovered I had been moving company funds into private accounts. You stole from her. Yes. Why? Because I thought I could fix it. My laugh came out bitter. You always said that. Marcus's face crumpled. I thought I could return the money before she found out. And when she did, she threatened to leave. I took one step toward him. Did you kill her? Marcus looked at me. No. The answer came instantly. I swear to you, Ethan, I didn't. I wanted to believe him. But 17 years of lies had made belief expensive. Then who did? Marcus looked toward the window. I don't know. Nora's expression hardened. You know more than you're saying. Marcus didn't respond. Daniel's phone rang. He listened for several seconds. Then his expression changed. He looked at me. Ethan. What? The archive has been opened. My blood ran cold. By whom? Daniel swallowed. Someone using your mother's old access code. Nora stepped closer. That code should be impossible. It's not. Daniel showed me the security log. One name appeared. Marcus Vale. My father stood frozen. I didn't do that. I looked at him. For the first time, fear, not anger, was visible in his eyes. Then another entry appeared. The same access code. 1 minute later. Adrian Vale. Adrian stepped backward. No. The house seemed to grow colder. Someone had entered the archive. Someone had used both their identities. Someone wanted us to believe they were working together. But why? And what was still hidden beneath Meridian? We reached the old headquarters 20 minutes later. The underground archive was beneath the original boardroom, sealed behind a steel door. Daniel entered the security code. Nothing happened. He tried again. The screen flashed red. Access denied. Marcus stared at it. I haven't used that system in years. Nora crouched beside the panel. Someone changed the authentication. I looked at the keypad. Can you open it? Eventually. We don't have eventually. I took the brass key from my pocket. Nora looked at it. That's not for the main door. Then what is it for? She pointed toward a small slot beneath the control panel. I inserted the key. A click sounded. The steel door opened. The archive smelled of dust and old paper. Shelves covered the walls. Boxes were stacked from floor to ceiling. At the center stood a metal cabinet. Its door was open. Files were scattered across the floor. Someone had been searching. I crouched. A photograph lay beneath a folder. My mother, standing beside another man. I didn't recognize him. Marcus did. His face went white. Who is he? Marcus didn't answer. Nora picked up the photograph. Then she whispered the name. Victor Shun. I looked at her. Who? Your mother's younger brother. I stared. My uncle. You were told he died before you were born. Marcus's voice came from behind us. He didn't. I turned. Where is he? Marcus looked toward the open cabinet. I don't know. Nora's eyes narrowed. You knew he survived? I knew he disappeared. When? After your mother's death. My mind raced. A missing uncle. A murdered mother. A hidden trust. Shell companies. And someone using dead access codes. This was no longer simply a corporate betrayal. It was a family secret that had survived 17 years. I opened another file. Inside were photographs of Victor. Then documents. Payments made to him. From Marcus. The dates began 3 months before my mother's death. I looked at my father. You paid him. Marcus shook his head. Not to hurt her. Then why? He knew what I had done. What did you do? Marcus didn't answer. Nora pulled another document from the cabinet. Her eyes widened. Ethan. I took it. It was a transfer agreement. Marcus had sold 30% of his original shares to Victor. The agreement was dated 1 week before my mother died. But Victor disappeared. Yes, Marcus said. I looked at him. Why would you sell him 30%? Because I was desperate. For what? To keep your mother from exposing me. I felt something inside me break. You sold control of the company to my uncle. I thought I could buy it back. Could you? No. Then what happened? Marcus looked toward the dark archive. He vanished. Daniel suddenly pointed toward the floor. There. A trail of fresh dirt led toward the rear wall. We followed it. Behind a row of cabinets was another door. It was slightly open. Inside was a small office. Someone had been there recently. On the desk sat a laptop. The screen was still on. A video was playing. My mother's face appeared. She was sitting in the same office. Alive, healthy, and looking directly into the camera. My breath stopped. Ethan, she said. I couldn't move. If you're watching this, then the truth has already become dangerous. Her voice trembled slightly. Your father did betray me. Marcus lowered his head. But he did not kill me. I looked at my father. He closed his eyes. My mother continued. The person who tried to kill me was someone I trusted more than anyone. The video paused, then resumed. She whispered a name. Victor. The room went silent. Nora covered her mouth. Marcus stared at the screen. My mother continued. He believes Meridian belongs to him. The video suddenly distorted. Then a second voice appeared. Male. Calm. Older. You shouldn't have recorded this. My mother turned. The screen shook, then went black. I stood frozen. No one spoke. Daniel finally broke the silence. The recording was interrupted remotely. I looked at the laptop. Can you recover the rest? Maybe. Then the office door slammed shut. Everyone turned. A figure stood behind the glass. A man in a dark coat. Gray hair. A scar above his left eyebrow. Nora's face went pale. Victor. The man smiled. He raised one hand. Inside it was a small remote. Good evening. Marcus stumbled backward. Victor. Victor looked at him. You always were slow. Then he looked at me. And you must be Ethan. I said nothing. He smiled. You have your mother's eyes. I stepped forward. What happened to her? Victor's smile disappeared. That is the wrong question. What is the right one? He looked at the files around us. Who benefited from her death? My mind raced. Victor continued. Your father thinks he lost control of Meridian because of me. He laughed softly. He never understood. Then explain it. I don't explain. His thumb pressed the remote. The archive doors locked. Lights turned red. A warning alarm began to sound. Victor looked directly at me. Your mother didn't leave you the company. He paused. She left you the power to destroy it. Then he disappeared through a hidden passage. We rushed toward the door. Daniel tried the control panel. Nothing. Marcus grabbed the handle. Victor. No answer. Nora turned toward me. Ethan. I looked at her. The archive is filling with smoke. A thin gray mist was spreading from the ceiling vents. Daniel covered his mouth. Fire suppression system. No, Nora said. She looked at the laptop. It's not suppression. She pointed toward the floor. It's gas. I grabbed Claire's hand. Everyone out. Daniel searched for another exit. Marcus stood frozen. I grabbed his shoulder. Dad. He looked at me. For 1 second, he wasn't the chairman. He wasn't the man who had controlled my life. He was simply my father. Terrified, I pulled him toward the rear passage. We found a narrow emergency tunnel leading outside. One by one, we escaped. When we emerged into the cold night air, the old headquarters stood behind us. No flames. No explosion. Only silence. Then every light inside the building went dark. Daniel checked his phone. His face drained of color. What? He turned the screen toward me. Every Meridian share held by the family had been transferred. Not sold. Transferred. To an offshore trust. The beneficiary name was one I had never seen before. The Shun Family Trust. Nora stared at the screen. Victor. I shook my head. No. Everyone looked at me. I remembered my mother's words. Your inheritance is the truth. I looked toward the dark headquarters. Victor had wanted us to think he had won. But if he truly wanted Meridian, he would have taken the company years ago. Instead, he had spent 17 years hiding, waiting, preparing, which meant there was something he was afraid of, something my mother had hidden. And suddenly I knew where I needed to look. Not inside Meridian. Inside my mother's trust. I took out my phone. The first notification was from the bank. Trust access activated. The second was from a number I had never seen. You are looking in the wrong direction, Ethan. Then came a photograph. My mother, standing beside Victor. And between them was a little girl. Claire. The photograph had been taken 20 years ago. 2 years before Claire was born. I stared at it. Behind me, Claire whispered. That's not possible. I turned toward her. Her face had gone completely white. Claire stared at the photograph as if the little girl in it had reached through the screen and touched her. That isn't me, she whispered. No one answered. The rain had begun again, thin and cold beneath the streetlights. I looked at the photograph. The girl had Claire's face. The same dark eyes. The same small scar beneath her left ear. But the date was undeniable. 20 years ago. Claire was 17. The girl in the photograph looked 6. Marcus slowly took the phone from my hand. His fingers trembled. Where did you get this? It was sent to me. By whom? I don't know. Marcus looked at Claire. She stepped backward. Dad. He said nothing. Dad? Why are you looking at me like that? Marcus closed his eyes. I need to tell you something. Claire's face tightened. No. Her voice became sharper. Not another secret. Claire. No. She backed away. I'm done being the person everyone protects with lies. I looked at my father. Tell us. Marcus swallowed. When your mother died, there was another child. Claire froze. My heart stopped. What? Marcus looked at me. She wasn't your mother's daughter. Claire's lips parted. Then whose daughter am I? Marcus didn't answer. I stepped forward. Dad. He looked at Claire. Your mother adopted you. Claire stared at him. Why? Because your mother couldn't leave you with Victor. The name made her flinch. What did he do? Marcus looked toward the dark headquarters. Victor wasn't your mother's brother. Nora suddenly turned. What? Marcus's voice shook. He was her half-brother. Nora's expression changed. And he had a daughter? Marcus nodded. Claire's knees weakened. I caught her before she fell. She pushed my hand away. No. She looked at Marcus. No, you're lying. I wish I were. Who was my mother? Marcus couldn't meet her eyes. Victor's wife. Claire stared at him. And she died. How? Marcus said nothing. Claire understood. Victor killed her. I don't know. You don't know? She laughed bitterly. You never know anything. That sentence cut deeper than any accusation I had heard that night. Marcus lowered his head. I knew enough to be afraid. Claire turned toward me. Ethan. I stepped closer. What? If I'm Victor's daughter? She couldn't finish. I understood the question she couldn't ask. Whatever your blood says, I told her quietly. You are still my sister. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know who I am. You're Claire. That isn't enough. It is to me. She looked away. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel's phone rang. He answered. His expression changed immediately. Say that again. He listened, then looked at me. Meridian's shares have been restored. What? All of them? By whom? The trust. My pulse quickened. Which trust? Your mother's. I stared at him. How? The trustee exercised its voting rights. Marcus looked at me. You. I shook my head. I didn't. Daniel showed me the screen. A digital authorization had been executed automatically. My name appeared as trustee. The timestamp was 17 minutes ago, but I hadn't signed anything. Nora took the phone. It's a delayed instruction. What does that mean? Your mother created it years ago. She scrolled. It's triggered when the Shun family trust attempts to seize Meridian. I understood. My mother had anticipated Victor. She hadn't trusted Marcus. She hadn't trusted Meridian. She had trusted time. And she had trusted me to become the person who could finally choose. Daniel looked at me. The trust now controls 51% of the voting rights. Marcus stared. Adrian was nowhere to be seen. I suddenly realized why. Where's Adrian? Everyone fell silent. Then Daniel checked his phone. His car was found abandoned outside the airport. My stomach tightened. He ran? Nora shook her head. No. She looked at the road. He was taken. The next message arrived before anyone could speak. Adrian knows where Victor is. Then another. Bring Ethan to the old church. Alone. I stared at the screen. Marcus stepped forward. You're not going. I am. No. I looked at him. You've spent 17 years making decisions for everyone. He flinched. This one is mine. Nora grabbed my arm. Ethan, this is exactly what Victor wants. I know. Then why go? Because Adrian knows something. I looked at Claire. And if he's alive, I want him alive when the truth comes out. The old church stood on the edge of the city. Abandoned. Windows broken. The bell tower dark. I entered through the side door. Adrian was sitting in the front pew. His shirt was torn. Blood stained his collar. He looked up. You came. Where's Victor? Adrian laughed weakly. You still think this is about him. Then what is it about? He stared at me. You. I stopped. What? You were never supposed to inherit anything. He wiped blood from his lip. Your mother didn't trust Marcus. I know. She didn't trust me. I know. She didn't even trust herself. What are you talking about? Adrian leaned back. She knew someone would eventually come for the company. Victor. No. He shook his head. Victor is only the man holding the knife. A sound came from behind me. I turned. Marcus stood in the doorway. I hadn't expected him. Neither had Adrian. Dad. Marcus entered slowly. Where is Victor? Adrian laughed. You still don't understand. He looked at me. Victor isn't trying to own Meridian. He paused. He's trying to erase it. My expression hardened. Why? Because your mother discovered what Meridian was really built for. Silence filled the church. I stepped closer. What was it? Adrian looked toward Marcus. Tell him. Marcus stared at the floor. Then he said, Meridian wasn't founded as a business. My chest tightened. It was founded as a holding structure. For what? Assets. What assets? Marcus looked at me. People. The word echoed through the empty church. I stared at him. What does that mean? He swallowed. Political families. Judges. Contractors. Officials. Meridian held their money, buried their scandals, and controlled their debts. Adrian nodded. Your mother wanted to expose all of them. And Victor? He wanted to control them. I looked at Marcus. And you? His eyes filled with shame. I wanted to survive. The truth finally made sense. The company's enormous profits. The shell accounts. The secret trusts. The fear. They weren't protecting a corporation. They were protecting a system. A system my mother had tried to destroy. Then the church doors slammed shut. A voice came from the balcony. Now you understand. Victor stepped into the light. Adrian stood. Victor. Victor ignored him. He looked at me. Your mother believed truth could set people free. He smiled. She was wrong. I stared back. Then why are you afraid of it? His smile disappeared. I continued. You spent 17 years hiding. Victor's eyes hardened. That was caution. No. I took one step forward. That was fear. For the first time, his composure cracked. And I knew I had finally touched the thing my mother had been searching for. His weakness. Victor descended the stairs slowly. You sound like her. I'll take that as a compliment. He stopped 10 feet away. You think you've won because your mother's trust controls 51% of Meridian? No. Then why are you here? To hear the truth. Victor smiled. Truth has a price. So does silence. His expression hardened. Adrian suddenly lunged toward him. Victor moved faster. A sharp crack echoed through the church. Adrian collapsed against the pew. Claire screamed from the entrance. I spun around. She was standing there with Nora. Victor looked at her. For one brief moment, his face changed. Not anger. Recognition. My daughter. Claire froze. You. Victor looked at her with something almost resembling affection. I've watched you for 20 years. Claire's eyes filled with tears. You abandoned me. I protected you. You murdered my mother. Victor's face tightened. She was going to destroy everything. She was my mother. She was weak. Claire stepped forward. I caught her arm. Don't. Victor looked at me. You see? He smiled. This is why your mother failed. She let emotion interfere with power. No. I looked at him. She let people like you convince her that power mattered more than people. Victor's smile vanished. Nora moved toward Adrian. He's alive. Good, I said. Victor laughed. You still don't understand. He pulled a small drive from his pocket. This contains every secret account Meridian ever held. He tossed it onto the floor. Names, payments, judges, politicians, everything. Daniel stepped forward. Victor raised his hand. Touch it, and every encrypted copy goes public. I stared at the drive. What do you want? Your trust. No. Then I release everything. You said you wanted Meridian erased. I do. Then why want my trust? Because your mother designed it to survive me. Victor looked toward Marcus. She built a mechanism that transfers control to the next generation whenever someone tries to seize the company. I understood. So you're trying to force me to dissolve Meridian? Yes. And you need me to do it. Victor nodded. Your mother's final instruction is the only authority strong enough. I looked at the drive. Then at Victor. What happens if I refuse? Everyone connected to Meridian falls. Including you. He smiled. Especially me. I finally understood. Victor wasn't trying to win. He was trying to burn everything before anyone could take it from him. He had spent 17 years preparing an escape from consequences. I walked toward the drive. Everyone watched. I picked it up. Victor's expression relaxed. You're going to sign. No. I crushed the drive beneath my shoe. His face went blank. You idiot. Maybe. I looked at Daniel. Can you recover the data? He nodded. With time. Then we have time. Victor's eyes narrowed. You think you can control what happens next? No. I looked around the church. That's the point. I turned toward Marcus. You wanted control. Then Adrian. You wanted inheritance. Then Victor. You wanted destruction. I looked at Claire. She deserves a choice too. I took out my phone. I don't own the truth. I pressed one button. But I can make sure nobody owns it either. The files from my mother's archive began transmitting. Not to the public. To independent investigators. Regulators. Courts. And journalists. Not everything. Only verified evidence. Enough to begin. Victor stared at me. You'll destroy Meridian. Yes. Marcus flinched. I looked at him. Some things deserve to end. He lowered his head. The police siren sounded outside. Victor stepped backward. You think this is justice? No. I looked directly at him. Justice belongs to people with courts. I stepped aside. I'm only done protecting you. The doors burst open. Police entered. Victor didn't resist. He simply looked at me as they placed handcuffs around his wrists. You'll regret this. I shook my head. No. He frowned. I already regretted the years I spent protecting people like you. Victor was taken away. Adrian was arrested at the church. Marcus surrendered himself for questioning. Claire stood beside me. She was crying silently. I put a hand on her shoulder. We'll figure it out. She looked at me. What happens to us? I looked through the church doors. Dawn was beginning. I don't know. For once, I didn't pretend to know. And that honesty felt strangely peaceful. 3 days later, Meridian's board met without Marcus. The room was packed. Executives, lawyers, auditors, shareholders, reporters waited outside. I sat at the head of the table, not because I wanted the chair, because the trust required its trustee to preside over the transition. The chief counsel stood. Mr. Vale, the board needs your decision. What decision? Whether Meridian Holdings survives. I looked at the documents. The company could be dismantled. Its legitimate businesses could be separated. Its hospitals and infrastructure divisions could continue. The shell structures would be dissolved. The secret accounts would be surrendered. The family would lose control. The Vale name would no longer dominate the company. I signed. Not the contract Adrian had prepared. Not the inheritance document Marcus had wanted. A dissolution and restructuring order. The old Meridian ended that morning. But something honest would survive it. When I walked out of the boardroom, Claire was waiting. You really did it. Yes. You changed everything. I looked at the empty hallway. No. I smiled faintly. Mom did. Claire took my hand. For the first time in years, neither of us was holding on because we were afraid someone would leave. We were simply walking forward. Behind us, the boardroom doors closed. Inside, the Vale family's old empire began to disappear. And for the first time, I didn't turn around to save it. The first morning after Meridian ceased to belong to the Vale family, I woke before sunrise. For a few seconds, I lay still, staring at the ceiling. No calls from executives. No messages from Marcus. No emergency reports. No Adrian demanding that I repair another disaster he had created. The silence felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. My phone rested on the bedside table. I reached for it. 37 notifications. For years, that number would have terrified me. That morning, I turned the phone face down. Then I made coffee. It tasted terrible. I drank it anyway. At 7, Claire knocked on my door. She was carrying 2 paper bags. I brought breakfast. I opened the door. You cook now. She frowned. I bought breakfast. That's what I thought. She pushed past me. You're impossible. I smiled. She placed the bags on the kitchen counter. Then she noticed my coffee. She tasted it. Her face twisted. That's awful. I know. Then why are you drinking it? I'm practicing accepting consequences. She laughed. It was the first real laugh I had heard from her in months. I looked at her. She noticed. What? Nothing. You're staring. I haven't heard you laugh in a long time. Her smile faded slightly. I haven't had much reason to. I nodded. She opened a bag. Egg sandwiches. Thank you. We ate in silence. It wasn't awkward. That surprised me. For years, silence in our family had meant secrets. That morning, silence meant peace. After breakfast, Claire placed a folder on the table. I went to see Dad. My hand stopped. How is he? She shrugged. Older. That's not an answer. He asked about you. What did you tell him? That you're working. I looked at her. That's all. She nodded. He didn't ask about the company. I smiled faintly. Good. Claire looked down. He said something else. What? He said he was proud of you. I looked away. The words should have mattered. They did. But not in the way they once would have. Do you believe him? I asked. Claire thought for a moment. I think he believes it now. That isn't the same thing. No. She folded her hands. Do you want to see him? I shook my head. Not yet. She nodded. Okay. No argument. No guilt. No pressure. That simple respect felt more valuable than anything in Meridian's vaults. My phone rang. Daniel. I answered. What's wrong? Nothing. Then why are you calling? I've been working with the restructuring team. And there is something you should see. 2 hours later, I met Daniel at the new headquarters. We had moved the legitimate divisions into a smaller building downtown. No marble lobby. No private elevators. No giant Vale portrait. Just glass walls, open offices, and employees who looked relieved rather than frightened. Daniel handed me a file. What's this? Your mother's charitable foundation. I opened it. The foundation had assets worth hundreds of millions. Hospitals, scholarships, community housing, research grants. I looked at him. Why did she hide all this? She didn't. He smiled. Marcus did. I read the records. For 17 years, the foundation had quietly funded programs under my mother's name. But there was one clause I hadn't seen before. The foundation's controlling trustee could not use its assets for personal benefit. My mother had protected it from the family. Daniel said, your mother's final instruction was very clear. What? The foundation was supposed to become independent of Meridian. I closed the file. She knew. She planned for the company to fall. No. I looked out the window. She planned for the people to survive it. That changed my decision. For years, I had thought my mother's greatest legacy was Meridian. It wasn't. It was the part she built that didn't need the company to survive. I called Claire. Come to the office. Why? I found something Mom left. She arrived 20 minutes later. When I showed her the foundation records, she sat quietly. She wanted us to have this? No. I shook my head. She wanted other people to have it. Claire smiled. That sounds like her. We spent the afternoon reviewing the foundation's programs. One hospital was about to close. A scholarship program had been underfunded for years. A housing project had stalled. The foundation could repair all three. But there was a problem. A former Meridian executive had filed a lawsuit claiming the foundation's assets belonged to the company. His name was Raymond Cole. He had worked with Marcus for 18 years. I met him in court the following week. He arrived surrounded by lawyers. He smiled when he saw me. You're destroying your family's legacy. I adjusted my cuff. No. I know what your mother wanted. You don't. She wanted Meridian to remain powerful. Then why did she build the foundation outside it? He had no answer. The judge reviewed the documents. Raymond's lawyer argued that the foundation had been funded by Meridian and therefore remained company property. Our attorney presented my mother's trust agreement. The judge read it carefully. Then she looked up. The foundation is legally independent. Raymond's expression hardened. But, no, the judge said. The case was dismissed. Outside the courthouse, reporters approached me. Mr. Vale, are you going to rebuild Meridian? I stopped. No. The cameras clicked. Why not? Because some structures shouldn't be rebuilt. Another reporter shouted. Then what will you do? I looked toward Claire. She smiled. I answered. Build something that doesn't require people to sacrifice themselves to keep it standing. That evening, Claire and I visited the hospital funded by the foundation. A little girl sat beside her mother in the lobby. She was holding a scholarship brochure. Claire crouched beside her. Do you like drawing? The girl nodded. I want to become an architect. Claire smiled. Then you should. The girl's mother looked at us. Thank you. Claire stood. When we walked away, she whispered, Mom would have liked this. I looked through the glass doors at the hospital lights. Yes. For the first time, I understood something. Healing wasn't forgetting what happened. It was refusing to let what happened decide what came next. 6 months passed. The Vale name stopped appearing on business headlines. That surprised me. At first, I expected humiliation. Instead, I felt lighter. Meridian's legitimate divisions had been separated into independent companies. The foundation became completely autonomous. Claire joined its board. Daniel became chief operating officer of the largest restructured division. Nora retired. She claimed she was finally going to learn how to sleep without checking legal documents before breakfast. I believed her. Marcus remained under investigation. Adrian was awaiting trial. Victor had been charged with multiple offenses. The courts moved slowly. But they moved. For once, I didn't interfere. I didn't call lawyers. I didn't manipulate shareholders. I didn't ask anyone for favors. I simply let the process happen. One evening, I received a letter from Marcus. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. There were only 2 pages. He didn't ask for forgiveness. That surprised me. He wrote about my mother, about the first company they had built together, about how ambition had slowly turned into fear. Then came the sentence that stayed with me. I spent years believing I was protecting the family by controlling everything. I finally understand that I was only protecting myself from losing control. I folded the letter. Claire was sitting across from me. From Dad. Yes. Are you going to answer? I don't know. She nodded. I haven't answered mine either. I looked at her. He wrote to you? Yesterday. What did you do? Nothing. I smiled. Good. She smiled back. We sat quietly. Then she asked, do you ever wish we could go back? I thought about it. No. Not even once. Never. She looked surprised. Why? Because if we went back, we'd still be the people who thought suffering was the price of belonging. She lowered her eyes. And now? Now we know better. She nodded. The next morning, I went to my mother's grave. I hadn't visited since the funeral. For 17 years, I had avoided it. I thought seeing her name carved into stone would reopen everything. Instead, I felt strangely calm. I placed the final copy of her letter beneath the flowers. I found the truth, I said. The wind moved through the trees. I hated you for leaving. My voice shook. I know that wasn't your fault. I sat beside the grave. For years, I thought you left me with nothing. I smiled. You left me the hardest gift in the world. Choice. I stayed there for a long time. Then I heard footsteps. Claire. She sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. After a while, she placed a small white flower beside mine. I used to be angry at her. So was I. I thought she abandoned us. She didn't. Claire looked at the grave. She saved us. I nodded. The silence that followed wasn't painful. It was complete. When we finally stood, Claire took my arm. Let's go. I looked back once. Then I walked away. That evening, I received an unexpected message. From Nora. You should come to the old Meridian warehouse. One last thing was found. I stared at the screen. Claire read it over my shoulder. Do we really need one last thing? I hope not. We went together. The warehouse had been rebuilt after the fire. Inside, Nora was waiting beside a small wooden box. I found this beneath the old foundation. She handed it to me. The triangular symbol was carved into the lid. I opened it. Inside was a simple watch. My mother's watch. Underneath it was a note. For Ethan, when he finally stops carrying us. I looked at the sentence for a long time. Then I turned the watch over. There was an engraving on the back. Build your own life. My throat tightened. Claire touched my shoulder. She knew. What? That one day you'd let us go. I looked at her. Maybe. Nora smiled. She didn't know exactly what would happen. She pointed to the note. But she knew you had to become your own person. I closed the box. Outside, evening sunlight fell across the warehouse windows. For years, I had thought strength meant enduring everything. Then I thought it meant defeating everyone who hurt me. Now I understood. Strength was knowing what to carry and knowing what to put down. I left the warehouse with Claire beside me. No empire followed us. No fortune. No title. Just two people who had survived a family that had nearly destroyed itself. At the intersection outside, Claire stopped. Where are you going? I looked at the road ahead. Home. She smiled. Where's that? I thought about the apartment. The foundation. The small office downtown. The hospital. The people who now trusted us because we had stopped asking them to trust the Veil name. Somewhere we haven't built yet. Claire nodded. Then let's build it. We walked into the evening. For the first time in my life, the future didn't feel like something waiting to be inherited. It felt like something I was finally free to create. 2 years after Meridian disappeared, I stopped checking the business pages. Not because I hated the past, because it no longer had anything to say to me. The foundation had grown into something my mother would never have imagined. 3 hospitals had been expanded. The scholarship program supported more than 800 students. The housing project that had once sat abandoned now had families living inside it. Claire chaired the education committee. She had become more confident, sharper, and, most importantly, free of the need to prove that she belonged anywhere. As for me, I had built a small investment firm with Daniel. No family name. No inherited logo. No secret accounts. Our rule was simple. If a business couldn't survive without lying to the people who worked for it, we didn't invest. It wasn't the most profitable rule. It was the one rule I could live with. One winter morning, Claire called me. Ethan. Her voice was unusually quiet. What happened? Dad's trial ended. I stopped walking. What was the verdict? Guilty. I closed my eyes. After 2 years of investigations, hearings, evidence, and testimony, it was finally over. And Adrian? Also guilty. I nodded slowly. What about Victor? Life sentence. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then Claire asked, Are you going? To see Dad? Yes. I looked through my office window. Snow was falling over the city. I don't know. You don't have to. I know. She sighed. I think I'm going. I looked at the time. Then I'll come with you. The prison visiting room was colder than I expected. Marcus entered wearing plain clothes. He looked smaller. Not physically. Something else had disappeared from him. Authority. He sat across from us. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then he looked at Claire. You came. She nodded. I did. His eyes moved to me. I didn't expect you. I didn't either. A faint smile touched his lips. That's fair. He looked down at his hands. I heard about the foundation. It isn't mine. He nodded. Your mother's. Yes. I heard the hospital opened the new children's wing. It did. She would have been proud. I didn't answer. Marcus looked at me. I owe you an apology. You owe a lot of people apologies. Yes. He swallowed. But I owe you the first one. I leaned back. Why? Because I taught you the wrong lesson. I said nothing. I taught you that love meant sacrifice. His voice cracked. I thought if I made you responsible for everyone, you'd never leave. Claire looked down. Marcus continued. I was afraid that if you ever stopped needing us, you'd discover how little you actually needed me. The words were painful because they were honest. I looked at him. You were right. Marcus lifted his eyes. I did discover it. He nodded. I know. I waited for anger. It didn't come. That surprised me. For years, I had imagined this moment. I had imagined shouting, accusing him, demanding answers. Instead, I felt tired. Not defeated. Finished. I forgive you, I said. Marcus's eyes widened. Claire looked at me. I continued. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm coming back. He nodded slowly. I know. I won't rebuild Meridian. I know. I won't use the family name. I know. And I won't pretend what happened was acceptable. Marcus closed his eyes. I don't expect you to. We sat quietly. Then he looked at Claire. I am sorry I made you believe you weren't really my daughter. Claire's lips trembled. You didn't make me believe that. She reached across the table. You made me spend years afraid that someone would tell me I wasn't. Marcus took her hand. He cried silently. I looked away. Some moments didn't need witnesses. After we left the prison, Claire didn't speak until we reached the car. Do you feel better? No. She looked at me. Neither do I. I smiled. But I feel finished. She nodded. Me too. We drove home. That night, I opened the wooden box containing my mother's watch. I hadn't worn it. I didn't want to. It belonged to the past. But when I opened the back compartment, I noticed something I had missed before. A tiny folded paper. I unfolded it. Only 4 words were written there. Don't become like them. I laughed softly. Still giving orders. Claire looked over. What? I showed her. She smiled. She knew you. I stared at the note. Then I understood why the words mattered. My greatest danger had never been Victor, or Marcus, or Adrian. It was becoming so obsessed with what they had done that I allowed them to define me. I folded the note carefully, then put it back. The next morning, I received a call from Daniel. Ethan. Yes. We have a problem. I smiled. That's usually how you start these conversations. There is an acquisition offer. For what? Our firm. I sat upright. From whom? An investment group. Name. Daniel hesitated. Shin Capital. The room went silent. Victor had been imprisoned. His assets had been seized. But someone was still using the Shin name. Who owns it? We don't know. I looked out the window. Send me everything. You think it's related? I don't know. I paused. But I'm not ignoring it. For 2 years, I had lived without looking over my shoulder. I didn't want to lose that peace. But peace didn't mean blindness. It meant choosing when to look. By evening, Daniel had sent the documents. The ownership structure was hidden behind 3 layers of trusts. At the very top was one name. Evelyn Shun. I stared. I had never heard the name. Then I opened the attached photograph. An elderly woman sat beside a window. Beside her was my mother. Alive. The photograph was dated 3 days before my mother's supposed death. I stopped breathing. Claire entered my office. What happened? I turned the screen toward her. Her face went pale. No. I nodded. There's more. I opened the file beneath the photograph. A birth certificate. Evelyn Shun. Mother of Victor Shun. And another document. A private medical record. My mother's death had never been registered under her real name. The woman buried 17 years ago had been identified using a different set of documents. Claire stared at me. Ethan. I felt the old world trying to pull me back. But something inside me remained calm. She's alive. Claire sat down. Then why did she let us believe she died? I looked at the photograph. I didn't know. And for once, not knowing didn't frighten me. Because I had learned something during those 2 years. Truth didn't need to be chased blindly. It revealed itself when you stopped forcing it. I closed the file. We'll find her. Claire nodded. But this time, we don't let the past choose what happens next. I smiled. Agreed. 3 weeks later, we found her. Not in another country. Not in hiding beneath a false identity. She was living in a quiet coastal town 2 hours from the city. Her name was still the same. Evelyn Shun. But she was not my mother. She was the person who had helped my mother disappear. When I knocked on her door, she opened it herself. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she whispered, "You have her eyes." I said nothing. Claire stood beside me. Evelyn's expression changed when she saw her. "You too." Claire's voice trembled. "Where is my mother?" Evelyn stepped aside. "Come in." The house was simple. No security. No luxury. No trace of Meridian. She led us to a small room. On the wall were photographs. My mother. Me as a child. Claire as a baby. Marcus. Victor. Our entire family history. But the final photograph stopped me. My mother was standing on a beach. Older. Alive. Smiling. I touched the frame. When, 2 months ago, my heart stopped. She's alive now? Evelyn nodded. She has been living under another name. Why? Because Victor spent 17 years searching for her. I turned. Why didn't she come back? Evelyn's eyes filled with sadness. Because she knew that if she returned before Victor was exposed, he would use you to reach her. Claire stepped forward. She abandoned us to protect us. Evelyn shook her head. No. She looked at Claire. She stayed away because she believed she had no right to return. Claire's eyes filled with tears. That wasn't her decision to make. Evelyn nodded. I know. She handed me an envelope. Your mother wrote this 2 years ago. I opened it. Ethan, if you're reading this, then the family has survived me. I smiled through the tears. I know you will be angry. You should be. I know you will ask why I didn't return. The answer is simple and unforgivable at the same time. I was afraid. I closed my eyes. I was afraid that if I returned, Victor would find you. I was afraid that if I trusted Marcus, he would fail you. I was afraid that if I told you the truth too early, you would spend your life fighting my battles instead of living your own. My hands trembled. I wanted you to become a man who could walk away from the veil name. I looked at Claire. She was crying. I continued reading. If you have reached this point, then you have done what I wanted. You chose your own life. At the bottom was one final sentence. Now I would like to meet the man you became. I couldn't breathe. Where is she? Evelyn smiled. She is waiting. The beach was quiet that evening. The sun was setting when I saw her. She stood near the water. Gray streaks ran through her hair. She looked older. But I knew her immediately. Not from photographs. Not from memory. From something deeper. She turned. Our eyes met. My mother covered her mouth. Ethan. I stopped walking. For 17 years, I had imagined this moment. I had imagined running toward her. Accusing her. Asking why. Instead, I stood there. She took one step. Then another. I don't know what to say. I nodded. Neither do I. She began crying. I am sorry. I looked at her. I was angry. You had every right. I thought you were dead. I know. I hated you. She lowered her head. I know. I took a breath. But I don't anymore. She looked up. Why? Because I finally understood. I walked closer. You didn't leave because you didn't love us. She cried harder. You left because you didn't know how to protect us without disappearing. She nodded. I was wrong. So was Dad. She smiled through her tears. Your father always was stubborn. I laughed. The sound surprised all of us. Claire walked forward. My mother looked at her. For several seconds, they simply stared. Then Claire whispered, Mom. My mother broke. She opened her arms. Claire ran into them. I looked away. Not because I was ashamed of crying. Because some reunions belong to the people who had waited the longest. Later, we sat together beside the water. My mother listened as I told her about the foundation, the hospitals, the students, the restructuring, the people who had survived Meridian. She smiled. You destroyed the company. Yes. Good. I laughed. She looked at me seriously. Ethan. What? I didn't want you to inherit my empire. I know. I wanted you to inherit my courage. I looked at the sea. I don't think I have your courage. She smiled. You walked away. I thought about that. Maybe she was right. Maybe courage wasn't standing in front of a collapsing empire. Maybe it was knowing when to let it fall. Years later, people would still tell the story of the Vale family's downfall. They would talk about the Billionaire dynasty that lost control of its company. They would talk about Victor's crimes, Marcus's betrayal, Adrian's greed. They would talk about the young heir who refused the fortune placed in his hands and changed the family's entire legacy. But they would get one thing wrong. I had never wanted to change the legacy. I had only wanted to stop carrying it. The real change began the moment I stopped believing that blood gave anyone the right to own my future. My mother returned to the foundation quietly. She never took a public position. She didn't want recognition. Claire became its chairwoman years later. Daniel remained my partner. Nora visited every winter and complained that we had too many meetings. And I built a life that had nothing to do with the empire I had once thought I couldn't survive without. On the anniversary of Meridian's dissolution, Claire and I visited the old headquarters. The building had been converted into a public innovation center. Children filled the courtyard. Students worked in the laboratories. Families walked beneath trees where the old company sign had once stood. Claire looked at me. Do you ever miss it? I looked at the building. No, not even a little. I smiled. I miss who I thought my family was. She nodded. So do I. We stood together. Then I felt something warm against my wrist. My mother's old watch. I had finally started wearing it. The hands moved quietly. Forward, never backward. I looked at the city beyond the courtyard. For most of my life, I had believed the future was something powerful families decided for you. Then my family taught me the opposite. The future belonged to the person brave enough to stop signing away his choices. I had once sat at the Vail boardroom table with a contract worth $200 million in front of me. They expected my signature. Instead, I changed everything. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted the company. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong. I simply refused to become the person they had written into their plans. And in the end, that was the only inheritance I ever needed. The courage to choose my own life.